Hey, hello, how are you? That Rockwell timepiece says, come on in and stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. That's right, Rockwell is a proud partner of the Coach Scott Field Show, and I'm thrilled to be a brand ambassador. Go to rockwelltime.com, use the code COACH20 for 20% off of any of those orders. Don't forget to like and follow the Coach Scott Field Show on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast forms tonight, don't be afraid to turn that knob up because Coach Del Harris and I are going to share some amazing stories through his basketball career and journey, and also watch us on DBTV, where you have the opportunity to be seen in 300 million households around the globe, also CSTV, and also the Rewind Sports 60. So without further ado, you're not here to hear me ramble. You're here to hear my Hall of Fame coach, Indiana legend, so many accolades. 2020 Chuck Daly Lifetime Achievement Award winner. He was the inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Uh, Good guy, one of the best in the industry, and I'm thrilled to call him friend. Coach Del Harris, welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you, Scott. Good to be here. And
Oh,
blessings to everybody out in your country where you are right now in 801.
yeah, yes, sir. Yes, God bless everybody. Let's dive right into this, Coach. You and I have many similarities in our career, and I'm blessed and honored and humbled to share that. But you and I are just small town Indiana boys where you grew up in the small community of Dale. How did that help formulate your character growing up in the small community of Dale, Indiana?
Well, first of all, I actually grew up in Plainfield.
Plainfield, yeah.
Well, yeah, I my family traditionally since 1820 is from Spencer County, Indiana, but my father went to barber school in Indianapolis and started cutting hair just 14 miles west of it, and that's where we ended up. So as a little boy. So anyway, but I'm proud of the Southern Indiana roots because it it was and still is by comparison the basketball center of the state of Indiana, even though it's in the South. They're all small towns in the South, and therefore basketball is, just essential to the small town communities. Even more so before consolidation.
Yeah.
Now with consolidation, it's a little less so, but every little town, uh, if you had 500 people or 400 people in town, you had the farmers and you had a basketball team.
That's the exact way I grew up. I grew up in north central Indiana
Yeah.
near the town of Kokomo, and same thing. I played when there was no classification. The movie Hoosiers was made about how you and I grew up, and then you and I also did something similar. We got our education from a small Christian liberal arts school. Talk about how that helped form your core values of who Coach Del Harris became with that Christian education.
Well, that brings up a really important topic in our society today, as a matter of fact. Uh, in the Christian colleges, for the most part, still today, I think there's a few that have kind of strayed away from some of the values that are biblical. But I think growing up on or going to a church affiliated school, if whether it's junior high, high school, or college, you have a better opportunity of learning the values that it takes to be a successful person, no matter what you do, and it puts you more in line of the things that our country was established through the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, though it's all biblically based uh, in those documents. And that's the way that we grew up. And so I'm thankful that I was able to go to Milligan University now, and it's a great school.
You know what? I went to King College in Bristol, Tennessee, and I believe like you, having that Christian liberal arts education helped me create and establish through studies of the Old and New Testament, helped me define my character, my core beliefs, and gave me a foundation to use as a platform to teach and build from. Do you have that same assessment, or?
Absolutely, Scott, without question. And uh, King was in one of the conferences we were in when I played. At Milligan, we were in two conferences. We're in the Smoky Mountain, and King was in both conferences too, by the way.
Yeah.
We were in the SMAC, Smoky Mountain, and I only had 7 teams in it, but they were in Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee. And then we were in the VSAC, which is the Volunteer State Athletic Conference. That had 13 teams. In my day, it also had East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, Austin Peay, Belmont, and Lipscomb, and so forth. And I got to tell you, this was a good one. Little trivia: I was all conference 6 times.
Woo!
They say you must have been dumb. No, 2 conferences.
Oh, Coach, that's great. Well, and then you became a part of the NAIA Hall of Fame, and then you get to start coaching once you got a college opportunity at Earlham in Indiana, where I started off at Huntington College, the Foresters in Indiana.
Yeah.
So again, we have some similar paths. But talk about those early days coaching at Earlham, which led to also coaching professionally in Puerto Rico, where I also got to coach professionally.
I tell you, we're a lot alike. It's just that I got the hair and you don't.
I was going to say, me being publicly challenged, I'm so jealous of your beautiful hair.
I could. Sorry, Scott. I just couldn't pass it by.
No, hey, if I had your hair, I'd probably be on a major TV network. But since I'm not, I got to deal with this.
Yeah, but your look is more in now than mine, so you're all right.
Oh, that's great.
But just don't get any tattoos on your neck. That's all.
Amen. Amen. Yes, sir. You're preaching to the choir now.
Well, when I left Milligan College, actually, I had studied to be a preacher, and my major professor, my Greek professor, told me that he just 2 weeks before I was going to go to seminary at Butler University, that he thought it'd be a good idea if I worked a year before I went to graduate school. And he said, if you agree, this is 2 weeks before school was supposed to start up in the fall. And he said, I have a job for you already. I said, what is it? He said, well, you'd coach 7th and 8th grade basketball at King Springs Elementary School here, right near the college. And so if he'd have said join the Army, I'd have said, where do I sign up? But so I went, and that year was so remarkable. It changed their lives, and it changed mine, my direction. These kids had nothing. We were in a low income area, and we scored over 100 points 4 times in 6-minute quarters.
Wow.
And we beat up on everybody. And of course, now a couple of my guys probably were a little older than some of the guys who we were playing against, because it was hard to get out of school sometimes there. but they ended up, kids that were just waiting to get out of 8th grade so they could quit, went on and so forth. And two of them had very successful high school careers at two different high schools in the area. So it was great. And I decided then what I'd like to do is be a small college coach. And but if I was going to coach, you understand, I was going to do it in Indiana where they really took it seriously, you know. And so I went to graduate school at IU instead of going to seminary the next year because I didn't qualify to coach. I hadn't studied anything, physical education or whatever, you know, all the various things that you should take, you know, kinesiology or, you know, various physiological things. So I did that, and I coached high school for 4 years. Actually, going back to Dale, I coached 2 years where my parents had graduated from back in 1929, and we had 2 great years. And then I got another high school job, a little bigger school, because Dale was a town of 900 people, understand. So, and then we did real well at that one. And this job at Earlham, I read in the newspaper, opened up, and I sent a letter. I didn't make a phone call. I didn't have anybody make a phone call. I didn't even know how you got college jobs. You don't normally get them that way. Well, and I didn't get it that way even, but I just got it through relationships that I had built with the faculty at Indiana University the year I was there, because where I was coaching was just about 10 miles from IU that last basketball season at Spencer, Indiana. And so roundabout way, the athletic director up there called IU and asked them to recommend somebody, and they recommended me. And the guy says, I think maybe we got a letter from that guy. He didn't know who I was. I went up there and I signed that day. I didn't, you know, that's it. And
Wow.
so I stayed there 9 years.
And I love hearing that because you talk about building the relationships, the impact that you have on communities, the impact that you have on players. And that to me, and with the teaching, that's what this industry is all about, Coach, as you know. And we've been blessed and fortunate to have, you know, worked with great people, meet great people, and people who have influenced and impacted our lives. Like hopefully we've been able to impact, you know, lives that we've been able to coach and touch, but definitely some divine intervention in there for you.
No question. Very thankful. It's just everything fell into place. There at Earlham, we had a great run for 9 years. And after the second year, we had about the same guys coming back, and we ended up ranked 6th in the nation without any athletic scholarships. And
Wow.
but I had great players. It wasn't just the coaching, I promise you that. And we just very fortunate to be able to get players. And it's a long story, but again, that was about relationships too. You know, that I'd had with college, the high school coaches around, because I kept playing in basketball after college, and I played with the Indiana State champion AAU teams 2 years and runner-up 1 year, and just got to know a lot of people. And so anyway, we've got good players. And then Parker Publishing of Prentice Hall asked me to write a book after my 3rd year, and I did. Then that book really did well, and there were a lot of other articles I was asked to write. And as a result, in Puerto Rico, they read some of the stuff that I had written, I didn't even know they had a professional team there,
Yeah.
or a league at all. And the first year they called me, uh, I, I said, no, I can't do it. I was still playing baseball in the summer till I was 32.
Wow.
Yeah, I played with uh, Kokomo Highlanders, by the way.
Yes, sir.
We won state championship 2 years there, and anyway, that last year was the last year that I played baseball, and I was playing for Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, and we won a national championship that year. But at the beginning of the next spring, my arm was dead. I couldn't, I was done. And I got the phone call again from Puerto Rico from another different team. And they asked me to come down. Meanwhile, I had checked it out and I found that there were a lot of ABA, NBA guys, D1 guys coaching, because none of us were making any money. You always had to have some kind of job in the summer.
Yeah.
And I know you did, when you were
Yep.
coaching.
Yep.
So went down there, and the last 7 years, I coached 3 different teams, and ended up being given the job of the best franchise there at that time, Bayamon, and
Woo.
we won 3 straight championships. And I was coaching against and with Tom Nasolke, who was coaching the Utah Stars.
That's right.
And he says, "Why don't you come and be my assistant at the Utah Stars?" Well, right,
Yeah, yeah. Hey,
that's pretty good.
when the door of opportunity opens, go for it.
And I'll tell you, I still have one of my dear friends, and he may be listening right now, as a matter of fact. I told him I was going to be doing this.
Yeah.
But Howard Adams worked with Tom and me with the Utah Stars that particular year. Now, it was a tough year because it was the last year of the ABA. Now, we had Moses, we had Ron Boone, we had
Booner. Yeah.
yeah, we had the Booner, great player,
Yeah.
and person,
Mhm.
and Jackie, his wife, and everything. They were just wonderful people.
Oh,
And so, but we had Kenny Gardner, who's from around there too, and just Jumbo Jim Akins, and uh, uh, we had it was good. We had a good team, but
yeah.
we didn't have good owners. And on November 29th, they said, we're done. We can't pay you anymore. So again, thanks to God, I had made friends with Jerry Pym, the great coach at University of Utah, and he said, "Well, why don't you come and you can we'll say you're my graduate assistant." And I said, "Okay." But he said, "I don't have any money, but I can get some for you from my booster club, and you can drive my daughter's car. She's off to school, off to college, because the car dealer had taken away our cars."
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Jerry made national finalist coach of the year that year. We had a really good team, and there's still guys from back then that are still in Salt Lake, and just wonderful people, and tried to stay in touch with many of them.
oh, you bet. Of course, I grew up in Indiana, but coming out with my basketball career, where you go with opportunities, I got to meet, Hall of Fame coach Jerry Sloan, and I got to observe and consult with he and his staff, and met and fell in love with my wife. So I think God had a plan in that as well, because that's the best thing and best decision I ever made, Coach.
Yeah, well, Sloan was one of the best ever, period, and a great guy. Last game I ever coached in the NBA. No, I was going to say that's not right. But with the great year that I had with the Lakers, the last year I was with them, we won 61 games. so did Seattle, and we had to play them in the second round, and we beat them. But then we had to play Utah in the conference finals. Well, they had won 62 games, just like the Bulls had. And I'll tell you, I had the youngest team in the playoffs. They had probably the oldest team in the playoffs, and boy, were they good and smart. And of course, Jerry was he was awfully hard to beat. And so they beat us and went on. Then they ended up getting beat by Michael, that famous jump shot, that was challenged by Byron Russell.
Yeah. Well, controversy. Did he push off? Did he shove?
Yeah, right. He pushed off. Come on.
Oh, good stuff. Coach, talking about, relationships and players that we've got to be around and players and coaches that we've learned from. When you were with the Rockets for a short time, I mean, you had Rudy T there, Moses was there.
Calvin.
I wanted to say Calvin Murphy was there. I think even John Lucas was there. How did that help you with forming your philosophy and being around great basketball minds? Because, I consider you're so humble to say it, but you're just a great basketball mind because you've had the opportunity to learn and grow and evolve from others. But what did you learn from like a Moses Malone and a Rudy T and those guys?
Well, it's hard to say any one thing. You just, have to learn how to deal with, professional basketball for one thing. But I'll give Tom credit for that, first of all, because I was with him at the Stars, and then he got the head coach job at the Rockets the next year. And I sold real estate for a while that summer. And then he called me up, and I ended up going down there in September. But I sold a lot of houses, by the way, that summer.
Good for you.
Century 21. Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah.
I made more money in real estate that summer than I signed up for the Utah Stars,
yeah,
which I never got anyway.
I so understand, because we all took so many jobs to supplement our incomes and whatever we could do to try to make a little extra money to have a living and be able to eat. That's what we had to do.
Well, I had 4 kids at that time.
Yeah, wow.
And so anyway, then and of course, crazy thing, when we went out of business, I was fortunate to get with Jerry Penn. Howard started a van conversion business, and I was with him the first day he cut a hole in the roof of an existing van, I guess you call them, custom van. It was called the Custom Vans of Utah.
Oh, how about that?
And that had to be a scary thing, but he did it, and he made that business a success. So anyway,
that's great.
Yeah. So, but again, with Tom, he had been in the league a long time. He was with the Bucks when they won it with Oscar and Kareem.
Yep.
Working with Larry Costello, who went in the Hall of Fame the same day I did this year.
Yeah.
George Karl and he and I, 3 former Bucks coaches, all went in at the same time. Interesting.
Wow.
So it was relationships again. And then, Rudy, he was, he's Hall of Famer, but a great pro. I mean, I was his last coach as well. I was with him 6 years, and then I made him assistant coach. But I was with Calvin during that time. Calvin made Hall of Fame, and I was his last coach. And it's always tough when you're somebody's last coach. I had Rick Barry there for a short time. I was his last coach. Elvin Hayes, I had him the last year. He played one more year, but anyway, it's hard to be the favorite guy of your last coach. But we managed, and Rudy did stay on as assistant coach, and of course the Hall of Fame coach himself. And had he not got injured in Los Angeles, he had the stuff to be Hall of Fame as a player. So then, anyway, with Moses, you know, I rode him.
There you go.
If it hadn't have been for, I mean, and all those guys, Robert Reed, I didn't mention him, Al Level, Tommy Henderson, Mike Dunleavy. I had a lot of good players, very good players, obviously. Everybody in the NBA, once you put on a uniform, I mean, you're a good player. I don't care. Last guy, right. Fine. Just let me wear one, huh? So anyway, I wouldn't have lasted as long. I mean, I'm still making a living on an NBA paycheck, you know, at age 85. That couldn't have happened. This is 1975 and on. So if it hadn't have been for the start that was generated mostly by Moses, didn't do it by himself. Obviously, it's a team game. Yeah. But he was MVP twice for us those years. And the last year I had him, it was his last year of his contract, and he averaged 31 and 15, his 14.7 actually. But that was the best singular year that he ever had. Now, he made MVP the next year with Philadelphia, but you know, he was on a more balanced team, and he didn't average as many points ever again. But just the same, he made everybody else better, and you know, you had to guard him, but that would leave somebody open, you know. So and we had guys that could put it in the basket. So
yeah.
Right.
Well, and think about it, Coach, and I'm just jogging my memory as you share those names. I think, wasn't it the year that you lost to the Celtics in the finals with that Rockets group? When you, against a Larry Bird and the Celtics, right? Wow.
That was my second year. As head coach. I was assistant with Tom for 3 years there.
Yeah.
As well as the time that we spent together in Utah. And then let's see, that was 80-81. The first game I ever coached as a head coach was the 79-80 season. So I started as a head coach the same year Magic and Bird and Sidney Moncrief came into the league and so forth. Well, I coached against Larry his first game in Boston Garden in 1979, October, whatever day, in 1979. And then that year we made the playoffs, and we played them in the second round, and Larry beat us. And then the next year, though, we got moved to the West, and we were in the East till Dallas came in the league. Then that year we went to the West, fortunately. So then we were able to play them in the finals the next year. But to do that, we had to beat the Lakers in the first round, and they were the defending champions, and they would win the championship the following year, but they didn't win that year. Moses saw to that. He always did well against Kareem. And, you know, not that Kareem didn't play well too, but he really got up for Kareem. Anyway, that's
great.
my story.
Great. Just great stuff there. And just the Hall of Fame and the level of talent and the people that you were fortunate and blessed to be around. I just think it is great because it did carve out a path and a journey for you to continue. As you've mentioned, I mean, still a VP with the Texas Legends now, which is so well deserved. And the game needs great minds like you to be around to share your wisdom and knowledge and be able to share your acumen. So I think it's wonderful, Coach. How about, I mean, gosh, when I mentioned and I promoted on social media that you were coming on, Pace Mannion told me to tell you hello. Pete
Yes,
Babcock told me to tell you. Ed Rush, my friend Coach Monty Mathis said hello.
great.
Antonio Harvey, even Coach Scott Fleming, who you spent time with over in India, just a great guy.
No,
So
Scott, yes, I did spend time with Scott in India, but Scott was my assistant coach when I coached the Texas Legends
yep,
Development League team,
yep.
and a great coach, by the
Oh,
way,
yes, sir.
and wonderful person, family, so forth too. But he has done a great job in India. You know, he's
Yes,
heads
yes.
up the NBA in India basically, but he coached their national team. Uh, I mean, when he started, uh, they were they weren't at the bottom, they were the bottom,
Right.
and he lifted them up, and they ended up uh, winning their first ever international gold, and they beat China in China, first time ever,
That's
and
huge.
oh, it is, and
Yeah.
but yeah, they're I've got so many, and those, gosh, I could tell something about every one of those that spoke. Those are all, I call them friends. They're
That's
every
right.
one of those guys.
Yes,
And
yes.
uh, I,
Again, they've become friends of mine, and some have been guests
yeah,
on the show, and it- I'm just I feel so blessed and honored and humbled to have built the relationships that we've built through this game of basketball, and I feel like that's part of God's master plan for us to share knowledge and wisdom and to teach and help others evolve. And I just think it's wonderful to have those quality relationships through this game.
well, it is. It's all about basketball itself is all about relationships.
Yeah.
And I tell that to the kids at the camps and things like that. Learn to develop a relationship. Learn to like your players. Pull for one another, not for you. Pull for one another, and things will work out for your team and thus for you. But because nobody wants to be on losing teams, you want to be a winning team. Help your teammates get better. So,
Amen.
but I tell you, I've got to mention. I'm glad you mentioned all those people. That's wonderful. Uh, but I coached with uh, Van Horn. I
Oh,
coached with one of the special people too to coach Freddie Roberts, and he's there, and of course uh, uh, the big fellow Sean Bradley
yes.
here,
Yeah.
and I hope Sean's getting bigger, better, stronger. Uh, Pray for him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And let's mention that real quick for those who don't know. Sean was tragically struck while he was on a bicycle down in St. George, which paralyzed him. That has him now in a wheelchair. So yes, prayers to he and his family for his strength and Godspeed on his recovery.
Absolutely, a great man, and all those guys were really good guys, and just well, anyway, it's you know,
Oh, Coach, I'm with you. Let me ask him more questions here because, talking about what did it mean to you to receive, the Chuck Daly Lifetime Achievement Award? Because Chuck Daly is so well thought of in the NBA Coaches Association and the great things that they do. But, to have your name linked with his, what does that mean to Del Harris?
well, that's a special one. They're all, every time you get an honor, it's you got to be thankful. I mean, no matter what it is, there aren't any little awards. If somebody
Right.
gives you an award, that it meant somebody to somebody, something to somebody.
Amen.
And but that one, because it's from your peer group, and boy, I'll tell you, in the '80s and '90s when I coached, you look at the coaches who coached during that era, which is by many people call the golden era of NBA basketball, the 80s and early 90s, particularly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, okay, it's changed a lot now. It's different, but well, anyway, one of the reasons is that almost everybody I coached against, there were only 23 teams when I started, is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you didn't get any nights off. You didn't get any night where you'd be going against the coach. Well, who's the coach there now? Where'd he come from? I mean,
Yeah.
you knew where all the coaches came from and how they had come up through, whether it was college or, I mean, Dick Motta was a pioneer in taking college basketball to the NBA way back. Speaking of, of course, he's more Idaho, but he spent time at Utah State. So anyway, uh, the thing like Pace Mannion, Pace was on a team, the Milwaukee Bucks that I coached. I was with the Milwaukee Bucks 9 years, with the Rockets 7 years, with the Bucks 9, with Nelly for 4. And then
What an innovator Nelly was. I mean, just the, kind of
wonderful.
the pace. Oh, just innovative mind there. Yeah.
He's so innovative. He didn't even know what he was going to do when he called timeout. But by the time it was over, they knew what they were supposed to do. He was the best at a timeout I ever
Wow.
saw. And
Wow.
a great coach, crazy,
You got to be in this industry, coach.
but so really good, and the players loved him. So, but that Pace was with us. One of the great teams that we had went through there, just so smart. Of course, Sydney and Jack Sikma are Hall of Famers off of
Big Paul
that group.
McKeskey, Big Mo.
I drafted Paul when I was with the Rockets in 1979,
Yeah.
second round, and coached with him there, and still friends. He's coaching in Las Vegas at in so I think it's like a prep league.
Yeah, the TBL,
School.
the basketball. Yeah.
And and he's a good basketball man.
Yes, he is.
We
Good
had
guy.
him down here because I not only was with Nelly in Milwaukee, but I came to Dallas with the Mavericks with him,
Yeah.
and we brought Mo down because Nelly had coached Mo a little bit, and I had him again, of course, at Milwaukee. But then we brought him down here. So
That's right. Oh, see, and again, relationships,
yeah, absolutely.
and friendships. I love that. Well, and then you got to be, you talked about the golden years. David Stern was the commissioner, and he was able to see the assets of Larry and Magic to take it to national television, to live TV, grow the game. Jordan comes in, and that proverbial torch gets passed. But when you were with a young Kobe Bryant, how how long did it take for you to realize how special his mentality was?
Well, I guess about a week,
Wow.
but that's let me back up there, pick up on something you just said, and then remind me. I'll come back to
Yeah,
Kobe
you bet.
Bryant, and this will be it's just another anniversary of his passing.
Yes, sir.
But in that 80s, I mentioned about Bird and Magic and Sydney and all, but you also still had Dr. J and a lot of great players that had come. See, the ABA made the NBA what it would become, because the first year after the merger, the next All-Star game, they had 24, 10 of them played in the ABA. So that it was a perfect storm for David Stern, a marketer. He wasn't a basketball guy, he was a marketer.
That's right.
But also at that time, you had ESPN just starting up. You had sports talk radio just starting up. It didn't even make it the first year. They tried it nationwide, the Empire Radio Network. But then before long, you start having, instead of games just on Sunday afternoon, you had games all the time. When I first started coaching the Rockets, they only let us have 10 televised games at home.
Wow.
Because there wasn't any money in it for anybody.
Yeah.
I went through 4 ownership changes in my 7 years, and the most it sold for was $9.5 million. That's yeah. It went for 2.4 in 2017, but it went for 9.5. And at the same time, Philadelphia offered Moses a total of $13 million over the length of the contract. And the new owner, a car dealer, he says, I just bought a whole team for 9.5. I'm paying 13. We'll finish last and get Ralph Sampson. And these other 2 free agents, they can go too. Dunleavy, Bill Willoughby.
Oh,
go on. And then Robert Reed take the year off. So we finished last, and they got Ralph Sampson. I didn't. I got the door, but it was okay because I ended up in Milwaukee, and that worked out very well.
Yeah, there you
Crazy.
go. Yeah, good timing there.
But anyway, Kobe, you wanted? Oh, go ahead if you.
No, please.
Okay.
Kind of lead into that with what you saw, which
Okay.
made Kobe so special and unique.
Well, my funny answer when I'm ever asked that before, at least, I still do it now, some reflect back on it. But the first time I ever saw Kobe, my first impression of him, he was really cute because he was only 4 years old, and I was his dad's coach, Jelly Bean Bryant.
Jelly Bean, yeah.
At the Houston Rockets. And Kobe's middle name is Bean, by the way.
Yep.
A lot of people don't know that. Well, maybe they do. He's pretty well known, I'd say. But I wish I could show you. But anyway, this is a guy that can speak 3 languages. He's super intelligent, totally dedicated to purpose. And his purpose was to be the best ever basketball player. He patterned himself after the existing best player at that time, who may well still be Michael Jordan. We can't argue that. There's a lot of great players, and the difference between whoever is the GOAT and whoever's 25th, the difference wouldn't even make an 8th grade team. They're that close, It's just an exaggeration, but it's that close. And boy, I tell you, my biggest regret with Kobe was that we didn't have in that day our own practice facility. The Lakers were one of the 2 last teams to get their own practice facility, and as after I was gone, the year after I was gone, as a matter of fact. But with that, he would have gotten better quicker, even because he would have camped out there. He was staying with his parents anyway, in the same neighborhood I lived, and he would have we'd have gotten him a cot, and he'd have stayed. But anyway. The other thing is that with him, he came to a team that was already young and very good. We had won 48 and 53, and then we got him. But at the same time we got him, we got Shaq.
That's right.
So now we've got the small guys for us were Van Exel at point, Eddie Jones, and Cedric Ceballos. Well, all those three made the All-Star team in a 2-year period.
Yeah.
And Kobe, I told him from the start, I said, now, everybody's wanting to see you play. We want to see you play, but it's going to take a little time because I'm going to treat you like it's a heavyweight boxing match. And these guys are the champion and you're the challenger, and you can't win with a tie. You still stay where you are. When you knock them out, then you'll be there. So it wasn't what he wanted to hear, but he accepted that. I had him 2 years in 12 games, and he never fussed about playing time or anything. And the first year we won 56 games, but Shaq missed 31 games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of wins when your best guy misses 31 games.
That's right. Yeah.
So now the next year, Shaq missed 22 games, but we won 61. Well, that first year, it took Kobe a while to get into it because he got injured just before training camp started, never got training camp his rookie year, never played a preseason game. First game he ever got in was in Madison Square Garden, and he didn't score, but he was just in it 5 minutes or whatever. And but by the end of that season, the last quarter, he averaged double figures the last about 18 games. And then the next year, he was our third leading scorer and was runner-up sixth man of the year on a 61-win team with their best player missing 22. So,
Yeah.
then of course, I had him 12 games the next year in the lockout year.
Yeah.
And we started that season with Ori with a heart murmur, and with Fox having a severely sprained ankle, and we had to play 12 games the first 19 days, and we went 6-3, and then we had to play Sunday, Monday, Tuesday on the road, back to back to back, and we lost one in overtime, 1-3, and the other one was the last one we won. We lost of all teams, which did me in. Vancouver.
The Grizzlies, yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, in those 12 games, though, Kobe averaged 20 points. He, of course, was a starter, and 10 rebounds as a starting guard. Now, he didn't end up doing that for the year. He averaged 19 something, but he averaged about 6 rebounds. But because those other guys came back, and somebody gobbled up those rebounds. But he got more his share anyway as a guard. I mean, anytime a guard can get you 4 or 5 rebounds, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was tough,
Yeah.
not being able to do more with him. But
Right. Well, let me transition to this because we've got, 4 or 5 minutes left here. You got to be with the Dallas Mavericks, and you're starting to see an influx of the European talent. Dirk Nowitzki, a face-up guy, spread the floor, could get his shot off at unique angles. Talk about the special skill set of a Dirk Nowitzki.
Well, you pretty well talked about his skill set there, I think. but he could rebound. He could get you 10 rebounds, and he tried on defense. He will tell you he wasn't a very good defensive player, but he was better than he acts like he was. He was okay.
Yeah. Well,
But
lateral movement was a challenge, but he still had length, so he could at least change
yeah,
some shots.
so he did, and
Yeah.
he held his own, and especially given everything else he did. But we had, again, Nelly was the head coach, and we had a really good nucleus. We had Steve Nash and Michael Finley and Dirk. I got a photo of those guys with Nelly and me and a couple other guys over here, and they well, the Mavericks rode Dirk, until they didn't.
Until the wheels came
retired.
off.
He quit finally. But and during that time, that we did have Keith Van Horn come in during that time, and as years went by, and I was with them 7 years. Nelly left and went to Golden State. Took my son with him there, Larry, who had been with the Milwaukee Bucks for 20 years, and took him there. And Larry's still there, assistant GM, and been there as his 15th year. And anyway, where was I?
Oh, again, just talking about, the transitions and things. And Coach, we've had such a great conversation. We're going to have to continue this because it feels like we haven't even scratched the surface on your knowledge and experience and acumen. I mean, this has just been wonderful. I feel like a kid at, Christmas Eve.
Well, you better do it soon. I'm forgetting stuff fast.
Oh, no, Coach, this has been wonderful. I guess on a closing note, I mean, you and I, here's one thing we also get to share because, you spent time in China. I was in China. You were inducted into the Indiana Sports Hall of Fame, and I'm feel so blessed and honored that I'm going to be inducted in August here in 2023.
Yes,
and
congratulations. That's great.
Coach, I'm beyond humbled, and I don't even have the words to put that in to what that means to me. But Coach, one final comment to the viewers out there about how faith and how your relationship with God has enriched you. Just in a couple minutes.
Well, it's, you'd have to go a long time really, other than just to say that when you're a believer, you know where your strength comes from, and all the honor and glory goes to God the Father, who created all that there is, and from nothing. And so we depend on him for the very air we breathe. And
Amen.
It's just, and of course, I believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and the saving grace of the Son and the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Now, not every Christian believes the same way, but Jesus has to be a central figure in any event.
Amen. Coach, I appreciate you. I just feel so blessed to have been able to share this time with you, and I know our viewers are going to be empowered and inspired, and would love to continue this conversation in the near future, because again, I would love to continue to share this, because I know people will want a part 2 as soon as this gets out there. So Coach, God bless you. Thank you for your time, and maybe here in the near future, when your schedule will fit, let's follow up and continue this conversation, because I just feel so beyond humbled and blessed to have shared this time with you, my friend.
Well, thank you. I think I gave you about all I got, but
Oh, no, so much more.
I'll tell you one thing. I love Salt Lake City. I was only there the short time, but what a wonderful city, and the people there are just great. I probably will never get back now, but
Hey,
uh,
listen, come on out. You stay at my house. We'll go out to the mountains and get some fresh air, do a little fishing, hiking, and I promise you, we'll eat good and we'll
well,
we'll
we
have a good
won't
time.
we won't do any hiking. I'm
Oh,
doing good to walk, so I'm just hoping to walk. Just had my third back operation, so
I know you did.
but
God
but I,
bless you.
I'm getting over it. I'm doing all right. Doing all
Yes,
right.
sir. Yes,
Thank
sir,
you.
you are. Yes, God bless you. I will be in touch. Can't wait to share this content for everybody because I know viewers and listeners are just going to be enthused to hear your stories. So thank you for your time, Coach. God bless you.
Well, you may have to wake some of them up right now.
God bless, Coach. Thank you, my friend.
You too. Bye.